Before the dragons came, Westeros was a broken land. A continent divided. 7 kingdoms standing apart like shattered pieces of a once great sword, each lord dreaming himself a king, each crown weighing heavy with pride, and all of them blind to the storm rising across the sea. In the cold stone halls of Winterfell, the Starks ruled the vast north, honor-bound, relentless, and as unforgiving as the winters that carved their souls. In the fertile Reach, the gardeners grew armies as easily as wheat, believing peace was their inheritance. In the golden halls of the Rock, the Lannisters measured power not in swords but in gold. The Vale slept behind impassable mountains, content in their isolation. The Riverlands bled between ironborn raids and petty wars. The Stormlands stood tall beneath thunder and rain, forged by tempests. And in the burning sands of Dorne, a people unbowed, unbent, unbroken, waiting for no one. 7 realms, 7 rulers, 7 dreams destined to fall. Across the narrow sea, the dragons stirred. On the smoking, ancient fortress of Dragonstone, a shadow with wings stretched across the sky. This was no king's realm yet. It was the last home of Valyria's survivors, an island built not by stone masons, but by fire itself. Here, the Targaryens waited, not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as exiles of a shattered empire. And among them stood one man destined to reshape the world, Aegon Targaryen, tall, quiet, unshakable, a man who listened more than he spoke, and yet whose silence carried more weight than the roars of armies. He was not driven by madness like some of his descendants, not driven by cruelty or hunger for blood, but by purpose, a purpose he kept unspoken, even to those closest to him. And beside him were his sisters, Rhaenys, gentle yet fearless, whose laughter hid a keen intuition, and Visenya, stern and fierce, whose eyes held storms more dangerous than any dragon's fire. 3 riders, 3 dragons, 3 fates intertwined, but the world did not yet know their names. The world saw only rumors, whispers, a distant family perched on a barren volcanic island. Forgotten by the continent, they would soon set ablaze. Everything changed with a single decision. One evening, Aegon climbed the steps to the painted table, a massive wooden map carved in the exact shape of Westeros. Not a map of borders, but of destiny. His hand moved across the 7 kingdoms, not as a man choosing targets, but as a ruler choosing a future. And in that silent chamber, lit by smoking dragonfire, he chose conquest. But conquest did not begin with fire. It began with warning. Ravens flew from Dragonstone carrying a single message, a proclamation that would shatter the peace of Westeros forever. Aegon Targaryen, of the blood of the dragon, claims dominion over all Westeros. Those who submit shall keep their lands and titles. Those who resist shall face dragons. The kings of Westeros laughed. Some dismissed him as a foolish boy. Others sneered at his arrogance. None understood what was coming. At dawn, Dragonstone awoke to the thunder of wings. The dragons were saddled, armored and ready. Great ships waited in the harbor, sails snapping in the wind. The sea itself seemed to tremble. And as the sun rose, Aegon's fleet lifted anchor, not toward a single kingdom, but toward a continent waiting to be reborn. The first flames of conquest had been lit. If you enjoy epic stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, because the conquest has only begun. The wind howled over Blackwater Bay as Aegon's ships approached the shores of Westeros. No armies awaited him, no banners lined the cliffs, no rulers prepared a defense, for the kings of the realm believed the Targaryen threat to be nothing more than smoke, a whisper carried by the sea. They were wrong. Aegon chose not to land at a major castle, not at a rich port, not at a city filled with soldiers. Instead, he sought a place where he could build a kingdom from the ground up. A small fishing village sat on the mouth of the Blackwater Rush, quiet, humble, unremarkable. But Aegon saw more. Here, between the sea and fertile riverlands, he saw the beating heart of a new realm, a place where a kingdom could rise. When his boots touched the sand, he claimed the land in the name of House Targaryen. His banner was raised, black and red, the colors of fire and blood. His camp was built not as a temporary landing, but as the first stone of an empire. This land would become King's Landing. From this moment, the conquest began in earnest. Aegon wasted no time. Scouts were sent in all directions. Messengers rode to nearby lords offering peace for loyalty and fire for defiance. Most refused. The first to fall were Houses Darklyn and Mooten, lords of Duskendale and Maidenpool, arrogant in their walls, confident in their armies, unprepared for dragons. Their cities trembled as the sky was torn open by beating wings. Vigar, Meraxes, and looming behind them all, Balerion the Black Dread. Stone melted. Armies broke. The lords knelt. Word spread like wildfire. A new name echoed through the realm. Aegon, the Dragon Lord. But not all enemies were so easily cowed. In the Stormlands, Argilac, the arrogant last Storm King, refused to bow. His pride was sharper than any sword. Instead of sending envoys, he sent insults. Instead of seeking peace, he sought war. His declaration resounded across Westeros. "No dragon shall rule me. Let Aegon come. I will give him a storm." Aegon answered. But first, he secured the fealty of the Riverlands through diplomacy and strength combined. Lords who had suffered under the tyranny of Harren the Black found hope in Aegon's arrival. One by one, Riverland banners changed color, from the sigils of fear to the sigil of flame. As the Targaryen host grew, Aegon prepared for the next step, a battle that would shake the Stormlands to their core. But conquest is not measured by victories alone. It is measured by the enemies who rise to stop you. And the greatest of those enemies still waited in the shadows, high in his monstrous fortress of stone. Harren the Black, king of the Isles and the rivers, tyrant of Harrenhal, a ruler whose pride dwarfed his castle's walls. His downfall was inevitable. The dragons had landed, and Westeros would never be the same. If Blackwater Bay marked the beginning of Aegon's conquest, then Harrenhal marked the moment the world understood his power. Harren the Black ruled the Riverlands with an iron fist. His castle was a titan, massive towers, walls thicker than a man was tall, and halls built for giants. For 40 years, Harren enslaved thousands to raise this monument to his fear. He believed stone could defy fate. He believed walls could trap death outside. He believed no man could breach what he had built. But Harren had not counted on dragons. As Aegon marched through the Riverlands, lords oppressed by Harren's cruelty flocked to his cause. They did not see him as a foreign conqueror. They saw him as deliverance. Harren refused to abandon his castle. He locked himself inside, confident in the strength of his fortress. He sneered at Aegon's warnings. He laughed at the tales of dragon fire. But laughter turns to silence when the sky darkens. On the night of the assault, a storm rolled across the God's Eye. The great lake that Harrenhal overlooked. Lightning flashed against the castle's towering walls. Thunder rumbled like drums of war. And then wings. The Black Dread descended. Balerion, ancient, colossal, breathed in midnight fire. A creature older than nations, older than Harren's dynasty, older even than the doom that shattered Valyria. When Balerion soared above the castle, men on the walls fell to their knees. Some prayed, some fled, some simply stared up at the living shadow that blotted out the moon. In that moment, Harrenhal learned a terrible truth. Stone cannot stop fire. When Aegon gave the order, Valyrian unleashed a torrent of black flame hotter than any forge. Towers melted, iron bars dripped like wax. The great hall became an inferno. Inside, Harren the Black and his sons were consumed by the fire they believed themselves immune to. At dawn, the smoke rose from the castle like a funeral pyre visible for leagues. Harrenhal, once the greatest fortress ever built, had become a ruin, a monument not to power, but to hubris. The Riverlands bent the knee, and Aegon, his legend grew. The kings of Westeros now faced a truth they could no longer ignore. Their crowns were dust, their armies helpless, their walls meaningless. There was no escape from the dragons, but even as Harrenhal fell, another king marched, a king whose courage would define the next chapter of the conquest, the king in the north.
Today,
Torrhen Stark, the man who would soon be known as the king who knelt.
And we fight for the living.
As Harrenhal smoldered and the Riverlands pledged allegiance, the realm trembled. But fear alone does not shape a kingdom. Fire does. Far to the west, two great powers gathered for war. The armies of the Reach, proud, disciplined, and vast, and the legions of the Rock, Lannister gold fueling their steel. Together they formed the largest host Westeros had ever seen. 60,000 strong, a tide of banners stretching across the plains of the Reach. Against them, Aegon brought barely half their number. But numbers do not win wars. Dragons do. The armies met on a wide plain between the gold of the Reach and the dust of the Westerlands. A battlefield destined to be remembered by one name, the Field of Fire. The sun hung high in a cloudless sky as the armies formed ranks. Shields locked, spears braced, the ground trembled beneath the weight of thousands. And then, silence. A moment of breath before the world ended. The sound came first. A distant roar, a whisper on the wind, a shiver that ran through every soldier's spine. Then the shadows appeared. Three of them. Aegon on Balerion, Visenya on Vahagar, Rhaenys on Meraxes. When the dragons dove, the sky itself seemed to catch fire. Flames roared across the field, white, red, gold consuming everything in their path. Armor melted, shields turned to ash. The cries of men were lost beneath the deafening thunder of dragonfire. The battlefield became a furnace. The Reach burned, the West burned. The very ground cracked beneath the heat. When the smoke cleared, thousands lay dead, and the kings of the Reach and the Rock were broken. One died, one bent the knee. The Field of Fire became the last stand of the old order. A realm divided now began to unify under Targaryen rule. But the conquest was not complete. One kingdom remained unconquered, a land of sun and sand where no dragon's shadow brought fear. Dorne, unbowed, unbent, unbroken, Aegon's greatest challenge still lay ahead. Westeros changed forever after the Field of Fire. One by one, the remaining kingdoms yielded. In the Vale, the boy king was persuaded by the simple truth that dragons could fly over mountains. In the north, Torrhen Stark marched south, ready to defend his people. But when he saw the ruins of Harrenhal and the ashes of the Field of Fire, he made a choice that saved thousands. He knelt, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. From that moment forward, the Starks became pillars of the new kingdom. Loyal, proud, and honored. Only Dorne resisted. Their tactics were unlike any Aegon had faced. They refused open battle, refused sieges, refused to stand still long enough for dragons to burn them. They vanished into the deserts, struck with guerrilla precision, and melted away like smoke. Aegon burned fields, towns, and keeps, but Dorne never broke, and so he did something no conqueror likes to do. He withdrew. Dorne would remain independent for another 2 centuries, the one realm the dragons could not bring to heal. But even without Dorne, Aegon had forged something the world had never seen, a united Westeros. Across the realm lords gathered, swords were laid at Aegon's feet, banners changed color, a new order rose from the ashes of the old. Aegon did not crown himself in Dragonstone, nor in his new-built fortress beside the Blackwater Bay. He sought a place of faith, a place of recognition, a place where the realm could witness its own transformation. At Old Town in the Starry Sept, beneath 7 pointed stars of crystal light, Aegon Targaryen was anointed and crowned. The oil touched his brow, the bells rang, and the realm spoke with one voice, "Long live the king!" Aegon of House Targaryen, first of his name, king of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, lord of the Seven Kingdoms, protector of the realm. His sisters became queens. His dragons became symbols of unity. And his city, once a humble fishing village, became the beating heart of a new era, King's Landing. From a divided land came a single kingdom. From smoke and fire came peace and law. From exile came an empire. And from the mind of one man came the destiny of a continent. The conquest was complete, but the legacy of fire and blood had only just begun.